Good morning. We will call the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting of Wednesday, December 10th, 2025 to order. Let the record show we have two commissioners absent, Commissioner Keller and Commissioner Schwab. First item this morning will be our opening ceremonies, Pledge of Allegiance. Right. First item is the order of business. Mr. Schlotchek, any changes to our order of business this morning?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. There are no changes to the order of business.
All right, thank you. Commissioners, with that, I would look for a motion to approve the order of business.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Item 2 this morning are two sets of minutes, our November 12th, 2025 minutes and our special planning meeting minutes of November 24th, 2025. If you've had a chance to look, is there any corrections or additions to those minutes that need to be made at this time?
On November 12th, on item number 3, the vote, I voted nay on that. Item number 3 on that instead of, I don't think Commissioner Hogan voted nay. Did you in that? Item 3.
I voted,
Oh, I think, yeah, I think you were an aye, I believe, on that one, right?
Yeah, I was, yeah.
Yeah, so it would have been Commissioner Franchek voting nay and Commissioner Haugen voting aye. All right, any other corrections to those sets of minutes that you guys see?
Mr. Chairman, with that change, I would make a motion to approve both sets of minutes as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. We'll move into our first item this morning on the regular agenda. This is a special use permit, SUP-005-2025. This is to consider a special use permit for a home-based flower arranging business located at 1896 First Street West on a property legally described as the east 73 feet of the west 77 of Lot 21, Block 29 of State Addition subdivision located in the northeast quarter of the southeast quarter of Section 5, Township 139 North, Range 96 West in the city of Dickinson. The lot is zoned high-density residential R3, and the site consists of approximately 0.25 acres. Ms. Burchak, good morning.
Morning, Commissioners. Natalie Burchak, City Planner. So the applicant is requesting approval of a special use permit application for a home-based flower arranging business located on a 0.25 acre parcel at 1896 First Street West within the city of Dickinson. So this property is currently zoned as high-density residential, or R3. As you can see, it's also located across the street from community commercial, or CC. As of now, staff has received public comments from a flower shop in town, a more commercial, larger scale flower shop, questioning why this type of business can operate outside of the commercial area and without meeting requirements of operating within commercial areas. Again, since this would be considered a home-based business, that's why their requirements are a little different from a more standard and larger scale commercial operation. I'm present to answer any questions that you guys might have. The applicant is also present to answer any questions, and staff would recommend approval of SUP-005-2025, subject to the conditions listed in the staff report, which are as such. Hours of operation shall be limited to from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Mondays through Saturdays. Operation of the home-based business or home occupation shall be as described in the staff report, as well as in the material found in attachment A. The SUP approval shall expire with any change in ownership. All subsequent owners of the property shall be required to reapply for SUP approval if they're looking to continue the SUP. And operations of the home-based business or home occupation shall comply with all applicable city, county, state, and federal regulations. And with that, I am open to answer any questions that you guys may have.
Okay, any questions for Ms. Burchak? Commissioner? Are they allowed with this approval, to receive, can customers come and,
So they at
being
least,
it's home-based, I'm not sure what our requirements are for that.
so for a home-based business, they're allowed to have a small sign. The applicant has expressed that they're not interested in putting up a sign, but they would be permitted to have one. They're permitted to have roughly one employee that does not live at the property, and they would be allowed, as it was explained in attachment A, they would be allowed to take pickup orders at this location. However, they would be limited to around 4 or 5 per day.
All right, thank you. Any other questions for Ms. Burchak?
I have a question.
Mr. Ross?
Just to clarify, I guess I couldn't find it in the notes. For a SUP, do they have to come back on a yearly basis?
No, not for a home-based occupation
home-based.
SUP.
That's what I had. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Rothstein. One more time, any other questions for staff before? All right, thank you, Ms. Burchak. Did the applicant want to say anything or have any comments? You come to the podium. Just state your name, please, for the
My name
record.
is Melissa Shepherd. I'm the co-owner of the flower market. I run the business with my daughter. About 95% of our sales come from the internet, from from out of town is mostly. We've done the whole Facebook thing. You've probably seen us all over Facebook. But most of our sales do come from our internet, our website that my daughter keeps nicely up to date. We do occasionally have people that want to pick up, but I try to push them not to because it's our home. So I'll say, well, could we deliver for free for you? And about 99% of the time, they let us take them out for them.
Okay,
Just because we want to keep it our home because we live across the street from the dance studio and we have headlights flashing in our window all night long. So I don't want that for our neighbors. We already have, the inconvenience of that. So, and we donate a lot around the community. If we see somebody is doing they've been in business 3 years, we'll take a bouquet just to help them celebrate. And we've been asked to now be in Kildare at a coffee shop at Garcia's. So our flowers will be available. We'll be giving her 25% of all sales for all the weeks of the holidays. So we're hoping to kind of push to other areas as well.
how many times a week do you receive flower deliveries?
It's been slow. September was really high, and now we're probably 3 or 4 times a week as well.
Okay,
Yeah, we're pretty slow. We're new,
so
so we just keep pushing.
when I
to
say
try
flower
to get
deliveries,
sales up.
when they bring the merchandise to you,
Uh-huh.
not you delivering flowers. I was just wondering how many times a week do you have a truck that comes and delivers flowers to you?
Once a week right
Once a
now.
week, okay.
Yeah, he does offer twice, but once a week covers us for several weeks out, so.
Okay,
Or, well, not for several weeks, for every week. And it used to be on Tuesdays, but then at holiday time, I guess they do switch it over to Wednesdays. So it kind of fluctuates, I guess, from Tuesdays to Wednesdays.
okay.
And it's normally a little truck, but last week, he was pulling a trailer because of the holidays. Well, not last week, the week before. Thanksgiving. I
Sure.
guess he does pull a trailer. I didn't know that. Normally, he just backs his little tiny truck up to our property. But we're trying to keep people off of our property for liability reasons, too.
Sure.
Donnie, my fiance, owns the property, and so we don't want anybody to slip on ice. And so we offer free delivery, just to try to keep people from not being on our property.
Yeah.
And for our neighbors, because it's no fun living in a high-traffic area, which we are dealing with right now.
Okay.
So,
All right, thank you. And do you have any questions for the applicant?
Mm.
All right, well, thank you.
okay, thank you.
Yep.
Have a nice day.
With that, then, you did say you had some public comments.
It was one from, again, a local flower shop, like a
Okay.
competitor flower shop
Okay.
that kind of sent in a letter.
All right, sounds good. At this time, then, we will open the public hearing regarding the special use permit. If there's anyone in the public that has any comments or concerns that would like to come forward, they may, or they can call into 701-456-7006. Again, anyone in the public have any comments or concerns regarding this special use permit application? Seeing and hearing none, we will close the public hearing. Commissioners, what are your wishes?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion. Subject to the conditions that were read, I move the City of Dickinson Planning and Zoning Commission recommend approval of SUP-005-2025. LaFleur, the Flower Market Special Use Permit is meeting all the requirements of the Dickinson Municipal Code, as also being in the interest of the public health, safety, and welfare.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. All right. Item B is a rezoning request, REZ-011-2025. This is to consider a zoning map amendment from general commercial GC to medium density residential R2 for Lot 1, Block 6 of West Ridge Second Edition subdivision located in the southeast quarter of Section 36, Township 140 North, Range 97 West, in the city of Dickinson. The site consists of approximately 2.23 acres. Ms. Burchek.
Thank you, Commissioners. So the applicants are requesting the approval of a zoning map amendment from general commercial or GC to medium density residential or R2 for Lot 1 of Block 6 of the West Ridge Second Edition subdivision located within the city of Dickinson. So the purpose of this rezoning is to allow for the applicant to combine this subject lot with the properties located to the west and south into one larger lot. This subject property is approximately 2.23 acres. So we'll get into it a little bit more at the next project, but the purpose of this combination is to reduce some of the tax burden on this property owner, combining all of these lots into two larger lots, one commercial and one residential, so that they can be considered an agricultural property instead of commercial, as they're not presumed to develop within the next few years. So they would be considered agricultural until most likely 50th Avenue is built out so that there's actual street and utilities in that adjacent roadway.
Yeah, 'cause
As of now, staff has not received any public comments regarding this project. Me and the applicant are here to answer any questions that you guys may have. If you need any clarification on how that determination of what's commercial and what's agricultural works, there were some comments submitted by the assessing department, which I distributed to you guys yesterday, that kind of clarify some of those points a little bit more. But staff would recommend approval subject to a contingent on the approval of associated FLP-014-2025.
so they're gonna rezone that little corner there, and then are they gonna vacate the plat or what?
So they're not looking to vacate the plat, they're looking to replat it into two parcels instead, as they're still looking to keep the remaining portion of the plat that's on the east side. It's just that western portion that they're looking, everything west of 50th, that they're looking to replat.
Well, if it's a recorded plat and it's got zoning already given to it, how can they tax it as ag? Explain that to me.
So in order to be taxed as ag, there's 7 different requirements outlined in the North Dakota Century Code, where as soon as a property meets 4 of those, then it's considered commercial. Whereas if it meets fewer than 4, then it would be considered agricultural. So being a platted subdivision and being zoned other than agricultural are 2 of those requirements. The other one that they meet is that the property sells for more than 4 times the county average. Some of the other ones, though, are that the lot has to be greater than 10 acres. As of right now, the lots are not greater than 10 acres, but if they were to be platted into 2 larger lots, they would no longer meet this requirement. They would only meet 3 of the 7. So that would push them back into being considered agricultural.
Okay. Are those requirements in here?
They are not included in the packet. I emailed them to you guys yesterday. It was a comment from the assessing department that we didn't get finalized until yesterday. But the other three that they would not be meeting are that public improvements, including sewer, water, or streets are in place. As you can see, the street just adjacent to the east is not in place, and there's no streets that have actually been constructed within the property. Topsoil is removed or topography is disturbed to the extent that it cannot be used to grow crops or graze farm animals. It's currently being utilized agriculturally, so that requirement has not been met. And then is assumed urban atmosphere because of adjacent residential or commercial development. As you can see, that adjacent property to the east has not been developed commercially or residentially, so that requirement is also not met.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Mhm.
All right. Commissioners, did you have any questions for Ms. Burchek? Regarding this? How are they, so just that one piece is being taxed as commercial now?
So right now, all of these properties are being taxed as commercial. Each of these separate parcels that you can see on the west side are being taxed as individual commercial properties. This plat would replat and reorient that so that it's 2 lots, which you'll see in the map for the next project, that it's that northern portion that's all R2 and then the southern portion that's all GC are being combined, since we can't have 2 zoning districts in the same lot, which is why this northern lot has to be rezoned so that it can be incorporated into these the rest of that R2 lot, because it can't be combined with the other GC. It's not adjacent to those lots.
So is that it? So why would the other parcel not been a subject to the, I mean, am I missing something here?
Because re-subdividing it changes it from being less than 10 acres, which would, if it's less than 10 acres, it would not be considered agricultural. Replatting it into 2 lots that are greater than 10 acres would no longer meet that requirement. It would be greater than 10 acres, so that condition would not be met, so it would be considered agricultural.
Okay. So they are vacating the plat then? How can you have two lots if they're not vacating the plat?
So if they were vacating the plat, it would go into 1 lot. They're
Well,
not,
they're
they're
I'm
replatting
assuming
it.
the yellow right by the purple, all that's platted, right? And is recorded, correct?
Yes,
So that's getting vacated then?
it's getting replatted into 1 lot. If it was getting vacated, it would be 1 massive lot. It's getting replatted into 2 lots so that we don't have a lot with multiple zoning districts located on it.
Okay. All right. Any other questions for staff? All right, does the applicant have any comments they would like to make?
I'm Jeremy Easton with Civil Science. I'm representing the applicant, Larry Nargard and Jim Roars. There's really not a lot more to say other than just the whole reason for the rezone is to basically turn the purple yellow so that it can be joined with the 1 lot. Otherwise, and the goal that the developer, the owner had in this case is to just everything west of 50th to be taken and created such that it could be zoned not zoned agriculture, but taxed agriculturally. And so if we left that lot in purple, that would have to stay at the same size and it would just not be included in the replat. So and then it just would be kind of an orphan out there on the west side of 50th. So that's the purpose of the rezone. Of course, like Natalie said, the next item on your agenda is to consider the minor subdivision, which would create the 2 lots instead of the mini lots west of 50th. As far as vacating the plat, of course, there's quite a bit of the plat east of 50th that was all part of Westridge Second. We did consider a partial vacation of the plat. We considered a de-annexation. We considered many things, and we, as with staff, have come to what we think is a pretty good proposal to come to basically leave everything in so that someday, as things develop out there, it can be re-entitled with lots at whoever develops it, whether it's this owner or someone else. There is substantial infrastructure costs associated with developing this property in the fashion it is, including a lift station. And so the costs are pretty high. Or it'll be very high, actually, in order to do this, and the owner just has not found the interest to take that on. So he's looking for ways to hold it as long as he can, and getting this taxation problem in check is the way he's come up to do it. So if you have any other questions, I'd sure be able to answer them, I hope.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Eastham. Any questions for the applicant? All right, thank you. So we're gonna rezone that little corner back to R2, okay, from commercial. The new plat will have, that whole lot will be R2 then, or?
So that lot that's getting rezoned would be R2 and would be combined with all of the R2 lots that are to the west and to the south into one large lot.
Okay. I was just, well, I'm looking forward, ahead to the next one. I was trying to find a map or what this is gonna look like, but there isn't one, so. What's the minor plat gonna look like?
It's just 2 lots. So the large, all of the property that's in yellow on the north side is going to be 1 lot. All the property that's in that kind of red hashed is going to be the 2nd lot on the south.
Okay.
The subdivision should have been attached to the agenda. Let me verify that or the pack.
Unless I'm missing it somewhere. The plat is just a,
It was in the staff report at the bottom, I think. If you would like, I can try to explain it.
It's named as the Westridge 4th edition. It should be the 40th page in the packet. Should have the plat.
this one?
Yep.
What-
The problem with that.
But, well, I know, but it still has all the lot lines on it. It's not right.
The plat requirements, you'll see, but we have to show the existing and the proposed, since it's a replat.
Yeah,
They're
So
in
the-
dashed lines on the
existing are
plat.
dashed, and they will go away after this plat's recorded. And it will be 2 lots with the heavy line representing the lot lines.
Okay,
Does that make sense?
it makes sense.
Believe me, I'd love to left all those lots off there. Would have made it a lot cleaner.
Okay. All right, any other questions regarding the rezone for the staff or Mr. Eastham? Hearing none, then if not, we will open the public hearing. If there's anyone in the public that has any comments or concerns regarding this rezone request, REZ-011-2025. You can come forward to the podium, or you can call into 701-456-7006. One more time, anyone in the public have any comments or concerns regarding this rezoning request? Hearing none, we will close the public hearing. Commissioners, any further questions, or not, I would look for action.
I have one question. Does it, changing this affect any, this and the next one, changing like future requests to replat it back?
No, so the applicant will always have the option to replat it and actually subdivide it into lots moving forward. It would just have to go through this process again. Mhm.
Okay. Anyone else have any other questions? Not, I'd look for a motion.
I'll make a motion. I move the City of Dickinson Planning and Zoning Commission recommend approval of REZ 2025, the West Ridge second rezone request as being consistent with the City of Dickinson Comprehensive Plan, as being compliant with the City of Dickinson zoning ordinance, and as being in the interest of public health, safety, and welfare.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And we will move into the next item. This is final minor plat FLP-014-2025. This is to consider a final minor subdivision plat for the Westridge 4th Edition subdivision, being a replat of all of Block 6, all of Block 7, all of Block 8, all of Block 9, and all of Block 10, all of Block 11, all of Block 12, 13, 14, and all of Block 15 of West Ridge 2nd Edition subdivision, located in the southeast quarter of Section 36, Township 140 North, Range 97 West, in the City of Dickinson. The site is zoned medium-duty density residential R2 and general commercial GC. The site consists of approximately 86.49 acres. Ms. Burchak.
Thank you, Commissioners. So the applicants are requesting the approval of the Westridge 4th Edition Final Minor Subdivision, being a replat of all of Block 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15 of the Westridge 2nd Edition subdivision, located within the southeast quarter of Section 36, Township 140 North, Range 97 West, within the City of Dickinson. So according to the applicant, the purpose of this subdivision is to combine the existing residential and existing commercial properties into 2 separate lots in order to reduce the total taxes paid for the property, as this will re-designate them from commercial to agricultural as discussed on the previous item. So the proposed subdivision is approximately 86.49 acres. As of now, staff has received no public comments regarding this property. I am present to answer any questions, as is the applicant's representative. Staff would recommend approval of this final minor subdivision contingent on the approval of REZ-011-2025.
All right, thank you, Ms. Burchak. Any questions for staff? We kind of already dug into this a little bit, but. If there's no questions, I will open the public hearing, or unless the applicant has any comments, but I think we've kind of dug into this already, so.
Definitely answer any questions if you have any.
All right. If not, all right, then we will open the public hearing regarding this minor subdivision plat. If anybody in the public has any comments or concerns regarding the Westridge 4th Edition, please come forward or call into 701-456-7006. Anyone in the public have any comments or concerns regarding this minor subdivision replat? Hearing or seeing none, we will close the public hearing. Commissioners?
I'll make the motion, I move the City of Dickinson Planning and Zoning Commission recommend approval of FLP-014-2025, the West Ridge 4th Edition subdivision, as being consistent with the City of Dickinson Comprehensive Plan, as being compliant with the City of Dickinson zoning ordinance, and as being in the interest of the public health, safety, and welfare.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries.
Thank
Thank you. Looks like that covers everything this morning on our main agenda. We've got item 4 would be public comment. If there's anybody in the public that has any comments or concerns they'd like to address with the commission this morning, please come forward. Anyone in the public have any comments they'd like to address this morning? All right, we will close that item. Commissioners, items not on the agenda that you might have that you'd like to bring up, if there's anything this morning? Doesn't look like it, so we will move on. We have some work session items scheduled this morning. Our first item is industrial off-street parking ordinance, and that will be handled by Ms. Burchek, it looks like.
Morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Natalie Burchek, City Planner. So today we're going to discuss the proposed industrial off-street parking zoning text amendment. So at our previous Planning and Zoning Commission meeting in November, we discussed some of the concerns that were brought up to city staff regarding industrial off-street parking. A lot of that scoria and crushed concrete being used in town. As per the request of the Planning and Zoning Commission, we looked into drafting up a text amendment for this concern. So our proposed change, which would be to Municipal Code Section 62-592, it would be located in item B and Section 4. So in the LI or GI district only, rear yard vehicle circulation areas, not including parking spaces, may be crushed concrete or similar material as approved by city administrator or designee. Crushed scoria, dirt, or other high debris generating materials may not be used as finished surfacing. And then also adding for point A, for those areas where an access drive from a paved public right-of-way enters a loading or storage area that is not paved, a paved entrance of 50 feet measured from the right-of-way into the property, or such other equivalent means to catch gravel or sediment prior to entering the public right-of-way is required. So these address the main kind of final concerns that were brought up during that City Commission, or the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, of adding similar language to Grand Forks where that 50 feet of pavement is required on private property in order to stop any of that sediment or gravel from entering the right-of-way and causing some maintenance issues. And additionally, just explicitly calling out crushed scoria and dirt as materials that cannot be used as finished surfacing in order to kind of prevent those from coming up in the future. So it wouldn't force any of those property owners to remove their crushed scoria unless they were coming in for a building permit or redesigning their property. Then they would have to move to a new finishing surface. So with that, I will take any comments or questions that you guys may have.
So the only thing that really is banned is concrete, or not, excuse me, dirt and scoria, basically, right? I mean, like recycled asphalt would be fine. That'd be something that would be.
Yeah, it's
consider.
just materials that would kind of cause a lot of dust generation. So scoria, dirt, anything that's pretty heavy is not going to be blown around and will be able to be used as finishing surface, provided that that pavement portion is
What
included.
about like class 5 or something?
That's not specifically called out, although there's a reasonable amount of dust generation from that. But I think on just a drive approach or something, I think that could be still something that could be used. We just need to monitor that and work with the applicant during the building permit process.
Okay.
And this is within city limits?
Yes, so this is not within the ETZ, it's just city limits.
Okay. I don't think I have any issue with it. And Commissioners, do you have any issues? It's pretty much what we talked about last meeting, so.
All right.
Do we need a recommendation to?
No, I'll be bringing
Okay.
forward that zoning text amendment to you guys moving forward, or at the January P and Z meeting.
Okay.
This was just kind of to get any feedback or any preliminary concerns.
Sounds good. And we can move on to item B then, and this is rezone notices presentation.
Morning, Commissioners. Natalie Burchak, City Planner. So today I am presenting on the zoning map amendment and SUP notice requirements. So recently it was brought to city staff's attention that there is a requirement for a notice by petition located within our municipal code, which would require property owners to get signatures from all of the adjacent properties or any property within 150 feet that would be considered notice to those property owners that a rezone or a special use permit has been applied for by this applicant. So some of the questions that we were looking to consider is, what are these requirements that the city has in place to ensure residents are notified? Are these requirements fair and effective? And how do other cities notice these types of projects? So as you can see in section 62-56 amendment procedure, we have item C, notification by petition. The applicant shall acquire the signatures of the owners of all properties within 200 feet of the property line in question, indicating their approval of the proposed rezone. This was brought up through a recent project by one of the residents of Dickinson that pointed out that this notification has not been completed in the past. The city has not required any applicants, at least within the past 12 years, to submit any notifications by petition. As you can kind of see, requiring all property owners within 200 feet to sign off for approval of a rezone would significantly increase the amount of time that it would take for an applicant to submit a rezone, if they would be able to submit for that public hearing at all. Because you have applicants that are maybe not available to sign off. You could have one property owner, or not applicant, one property owner that's not available to sign off, one property owner that does not support the project and would therefore stop it from ever even reaching a public hearing. This kind of requirement would cause quite a few rezones to not even be able to make it to public hearings, regardless of whether or not they were supported by the adjacent property owners. So what are other communities doing? So Bismarck's current requirement does not have anything like this. So their public hearings by Planning and Zoning Commission require preliminary approval of a zoning change application, and then the Director of Community Development shall set a time and place for a public hearing thereon. Notice of the time and place of such public hearing shall be published in a newspaper of general circulation in the city of Bismarck once each week for 2 consecutive weeks prior to the hearing. So these are pretty similar to our newspaper notice requirements that we currently utilize. And as you can see, they do not have anything similar to that notice by petition. Similar to Williston, notices have to contain the following information: the time and place of the hearing, description of any property involved in the zoning change by address if streets have been platted or designated in the area affected, description of the nature, scope, and purpose of this proposed change, restriction, or boundary, and a statement of the times at which will be available to the public for inspection and copying at the office of the city auditor. So this is all just, again, similar to the requirements that the city currently utilizes for what information needs to be included in those newspaper notices for public hearing. Grand Forks similarly has notices of through the official newspapers, and then have to report findings for any recommendations within 30 days after a hearing. So city staff suggestion based on what other communities are doing and based on kind of the significant hardship that notification by petition would require, we would recommend removing the following language. In item 1, we would recommend removing as determined by the city in order to remove any question of whether or not these requirements are required, so that as determined by the city can make it so that the city can kind of pick and choose which of these it moves forward with. Removing this language makes it clear to both applicants and city staff notification by mail and publication are the required notices, and if they do not take place, then the public hearing would have to be rescheduled and renoticed. And then we would also recommend removing that notification by petition. That is an option that the city would not want to take advantage of in the future. It's a significant hardship to the applicant, and it would cause projects either supported or not supported by property owners to not even be able to reach the public hearing stage. And with that, I would be open to any comments or questions from the commission.
What's the minimum requirement by Century Code? That's what it should be.
Commissioner Frederick, if my memory serves me correctly, on a rezone request, publication has to be given within the newspaper. I think it's 2 weeks prior, and it must go out to any resident within 300 feet of the existing proposed rezone or request. I believe that's the city's policy that it currently has in place and it's been utilizing. I would concur with Ms. Burchek's comments. This, as it's currently written, cuts both ways because it can stop a project from moving forward that the surrounding community members or property owners support, and it can also stop one that they object to. And so because, again, we may have property owners that we can't locate, may have property owners that are deceased, and one signature can stop a project from moving forward that might be very much supported by the community. So I think this is a little bit unusual. Like I said, as Ms. Burchek pointed out, a lot of communities do not utilize this. I think in my tenure here, I've never seen the city ever require that. And I do think it is an extra step and an extra burden on the applicant to secure those signatures. So I would support the amendment. I think what the city is doing currently as part of its notification requirements is consistent with Century Code minimum requirements.
Okay. That'd be my recommendation. To verbatim what Century Code's minimum requirement is that what we should change it to?
Yes, and what we have currently meets the minimums for the Century Code. This is the only outlier. This one is not mentioned in Century Code.
This is not the only one that we need to look at. This protest provision we have in our code needs to also be looked at. The way that that is written, again, we could have one property owner that owns 20% of an adjacent property line stopping a whole development.
So that is another, if you're referring to the protest petition for the rezones, that's another one that city staff has begun to look into. Since that one doesn't halt a development, it just boosts the requirement for what city commission. So essentially, anybody within 150 feet of a property, they have to get a notarized petition within 14 days of the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, public hearing. And if that is met and at least 20% of the property owners within 150 feet have their notarized signatures included on that petition, then it ups the requirement of city commission from 50% for approval to 75% for approval. So kind of a supermajority would be required. So we have been looking into whether or not other cities do that. That was going to be a work session item for January.
Okay.
But it's a little bit, since it wouldn't halt development, it just kind of increases the requirement. It was considered as a bit of a lesser concern than something like this, where you wouldn't even make it to public hearing.
In my 9 years, I've never seen either of these two ever be used, and I've been on planning and zoning prior to the 9 years I've been a commissioner. So somebody was really doing their homework.
With that being said, is there any concerning factors with any projects that we have since this wasn't implemented in the past?
Since, again, it mentions as determined by the city, that gives the city the ability to, just use its discretion to decide whether or not a property owner does have to follow through with this. But again, that adds a layer of confusion, so removing that and removing this requirement, we think, would clarify what exactly needs to be done.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, any other comments regarding this, commissioners?
I would just say I agree to this change as well, and I agree that we need to look at the other one we're referencing for January as well.
Okay.
All right, then the final item this morning is short-term rental ordinance.
Yes, so good morning, commissioners. For this project, we'll be discussing proposed short-term rental zoning text amendment. So this is just the first draft of a zoning text amendment in order to permit short-term rentals within the city of Dickinson. So our proposed change to Municipal Code Section 62-133, this is to add a new commercial use definition. So we would have item 35, short-term rental, a residential unit where sleeping accommodations are furnished to transient guests for a charge. This definition only applies to single structures with 5 or fewer guest rooms, 10 or fewer total applicants, and where guests stay for fewer than 28 days. So these requirements keep the short-term rental definition from falling into the lodging definition, which is when it's either single or multi-structures with more than 5 guest rooms or more than 10 total occupants. And then again, it's not going to be any kind of long-term residence because guests will be required to stay fewer than 28 days. Anything longer than 28 days is long-term housing or long-term rentals. We would be recommending that short-term rentals be permitted in the rural residential, R1, R2, R3, and mobile home zoning districts, as well as the downtown commercial zoning district, as these are where a lot of the kind of short-term rentals have been proposed, is just within any of our residential zoning districts. So proposed change to Municipal Code Section 62-469. So these are all of our specific requirements for any uses. This would be added as item 8 for these commercial uses. Short-term rental. When permitted in the rural residential, R1, R2, R3, mobile home, and downtown commercial zoning districts, short-term rentals shall be subject to the following additional requirements. A, short-term rentals must obtain a license through the Community Development Department. In order to obtain a short-term rental license, the applicant shall provide the following information. 1, a list of house rules that all guests must abide by while staying on the property. These house rules shall include a maximum number of guests, not to exceed the maximum occupancy rates, as determined by the city and building and fire codes. 2, a copy of the deed in which the applicant shall be listed as the deed holder. 3, the information for a primary contact who shall be available 24/7 if any issues arise with the rental property. 4, a list of any other short-term rental uses and licenses the applicant has any financial stake in. So this could include financial stake via business that you are part owner in, or if you're married and your spouse has any kind of a short-term rental. 5, a list of any other residents or entities that have direct financial stake in the proposed short-term rental, as well as the names of the primary stakeholders for any businesses or corporations with financial stake in the property. 6, an emergency plan that demonstrates to guests how to respond to emergencies such as fire, as well as a signed statement that there are adequate smoke and carbon monoxide detectors installed in the structure. And any additional documentation deemed necessary by community development staff. B, all short-term rental licenses are subject to a calendar yearly renewal. A yearly license fee as determined by the city shall be paid at the time of the application submittal. For this proposal, we would be recommending a $100 application fee, which would be included in the fee schedule. I've already talked with the finance department on including that in the fee schedule for 2026. C, any entity is allowed to apply for or have financial stake in a maximum of 2 short-term rental licenses. D, in the event that a license is revoked due to the applicant violating one of the rules outlined above, the applicant may not apply for a new license until at least 6 months have passed. An applicant having had multiple license revocations in the past may serve as justification to deny a new license application. E, the short-term rental use is only permitted in residential homes owned by the license applicant. This use is not permitted within apartment complexes, duplexes, accessory structures, or ADUs. Any residences utilized as a short-term rental shall be residential in appearance. And F, the property must meet current zoning requirements, including proper setbacks, landscaping, and off-street parking requirements. So the purpose of these changes, short-term rentals will become a permitted use within the residential zoning district, limiting short-term rental uses to owner-homed residences and limiting the number of permitted short-term rentals as individual and organizations. How many licenses each of these individuals or organizations can have reduces the negative impacts on long-term rental and housing markets within the city. Allowing for the denial of licenses due to revocation of previous licenses gives the city the ability to limit nuisances or properties with repeat offenses from continued operations. And as I mentioned before, the proposed license fee the city is proposing is $100 annually. And that license would be renewed in January for all applicants, regardless of when it was initially applied for, just to keep things consistent. With that, I know that was a lot of information, but I'm here to answer any questions or comments that you guys may have regarding this proposal.
So which department is gonna maintain this list and make sure the renewals go out annually and?
Yeah, so it would be handled by community development staff. At least for the time being, they would all go through Sylvia's office.
Okay.
And-
And, go ahead.
Oh, and again, this would be within city limits, not in the ETZ.
So this is in our or our zoning ordinance, so this would be within the ETC as well. So it's still permitted in rural residential, but it wouldn't be permitted in agricultural based on this proposal.
Okay.
Are other communities limiting this to 2, or do you know? Yeah, I'm just wondering, is 2,
Based on some discussions that I had, there was a consultant with Airbnb that kind of came to my office to discuss this proposal. A lot of communities throughout the country do utilize this kind of 2 license maximum, particularly for companies, in order to try and combat companies coming in, buying whole blocks of houses and then renting them out for short-term rental to kind of impact the housing market.
so can the entity applying for this license be a commercial, like an LLC, and then they can turn around and get 2 more as a personal and another
So
LLC?
that's why we're also requiring stakeholders for LLCs or businesses to be listed, so we can kind of limit if somebody is looking to just kind of start new LLCs to create new ones.
So I have a question. So on the one right before this, you're taking out as determined by the city to make sure it's all clear. Isn't number 7 on part 1 doing the same thing?
So for notice requirements, as determined by the city, kind of leads some ambiguity that can harm a lot of the residents when they don't know exactly what needs to be noticed, and leads to confusion like we had previously when something like that notice petition is not met. When we're requesting for additional information, this gives us the ability where if there's some kind of unique property about, or unique factor about this property, we can request information regarding that.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
I think it looks, I mean, it's a good start. I mean, I'm sure there's something will come up that we'll have to address later, but I mean,
Yeah.
it's a place to start, so.
At the very, like moving forward, if anything comes up, we can always amend it, but this is kind of our first proposal to
Yeah,
kind of see how it goes moving into 2026.
yeah, I agree. Any other questions, commissioners, for staff on that one? All right, thank you, Ms. Burchek, on that.
And then that one will also be brought forward then as a zoning text amendment for January.
Wonderful. Okay. If there's nothing else this morning, then commissioners, if you have nothing else, I would look for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.